Morning.
Hi.
Hi.
I was thinking this morning how it's interesting that we haven't talked since our last live stream at all. I mean,
Right.
you sent me that one message that I didn't respond to, but
Yeah,
um yeah, I'm glad to be connecting. I've been
me
missing
too.
missing you.
Me too. Me too. I really feel like I need that. I really notice in the name of this work as well that when things get intense and overwhelming in life, that I now am familiar with when I connect with somebody in that space, when I share it, I feel better.
Yeah.
So I was really like, I was so grateful for this morning and this appointment to talk, to make
Yes.
time for this.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what I notice is just, I need this connection right now. I need to feel
Well,
connected to something.
what's here for you today?
Well, yeah, we spoke about how we wanted to talk about our transitions. Really, we just want to open and include what's happening now. And what I shared many things, but what's super active is that I've just lost my husband, and I'm a single mom of a girl that's becoming a teenager, and Chris's memorial is this weekend, and it's been 2 months. And I feel that it's been easy to just kind of stay busy with life
Mm.
and with the confrontation of the memorial this weekend, and also some of the realities around just, making sure that my daughter's okay in this process, um, are requiring me to slow down and not just speed forward or not just like get on with my stuff and my
Mm.
life, and really not rush through this process, which is letting him go and remembering and continuing to feel all of the really beautiful lessons that have come out of this loss,
Mm.
and the tragedy of the loss of what we collectively we sort of know and sense into, um, when someone's taken young,
Mm.
when it seems like, again, like that word tragedy, or like that there's something innately wrong in a young vital man at 53, a husband, a father of a young girl that he is not seeing into her prime, um, other things in his life that were going on for him, that he was at a peak that the people in his lives knew about, and he was so close with his friends, and one would say that he was heading into those golden years of his life, um, not being able to experience being a grandfather, perhaps, like all of those things come up for us as a collective when somebody dies seemingly before their time.
Mm.
And digesting that and processing that really just, it takes time, and it really edges up against all of the things that we expect for our lives. It makes all of us that were knew him well go, oh well, it's not guaranteed, not not everything is guaranteed, and how challenging that is to feel, and how truly it's easier to kind of forget.
Mm.
And I can feel how I want to forget, and move on. Um, that it's hard to feel some of those feelings that I describe, and yet there's been so it's really, I want to let it change me. You know, I don't want to go on as I was before. I want to go on and have this experience of loss and fragility of life, and that things aren't guaranteed, and that, you know, that it's meaningful, that it's valuable and worth being felt and spending time with.
Mm.
Um, yeah. Yeah, so, you know, I feel I was feeling very alone, which was why I was really craving to see you this morning.
Yeah. What I'm hearing is the challenge of like holding two very juxtaposed feelings.
Mm, yeah, right.
Do you feel like you can allow both to be true?
Yeah. Yeah, just even the invitation to allow both to be true kind of create a spaciousness that that says, "Oh yeah, it doesn't have to be one thing."
Mm.
Yeah. Definitely making space for the difficulty though, the part that's uncomfortable in that, on the good and bad side of it.
Sure.
Um, that's where I feel like slowing down and connecting, knowing that you can hold this with me, that, you know, not everybody wants to hear. Um, it's helpful.
Well, do you feel like it would be helpful to explore some of those sort of big opposites?
Mm, we can. Let's do it a little bit.
Okay. So I might recommend, if you're feeling receptive to it, to give yourself a second to sort of, I know one of the challenges of doing this live streaming is the awareness, speaking of holding two things true at once, the awareness that, even though there may not be anyone here now, the awareness that there's an audience or others out there, and also acknowledging that your processing can feel very private, and and the desire to have that sense of safety, of intimacy.
Yeah, well, and I feel safe because essentially I just know that I'm with you. And honestly, what's interesting is the idea that there would be a person listening to this, that if they're still listening, like that they actually care, you know,
Mm,
that this is that feels supportive to
yeah.
you know, it's interesting because my thought is like, in general, I think is always a little surprise, like, oh, you're actually interested.
Mm,
You know, I remember having such deep feelings all my life and deep questions. And, you know, that awareness that that can be an uncomfortable space for people. And then this idea that, oh, that might be acceptable to talk this way, or like it's socially inappropriate to be so, you know, to think so deeply, like don't take it so seriously, all the things. So
yeah.
actually I feel really liberated and I'm grateful for an opportunity to explore, because it's hard to do on your own. You know, to
Yeah.
look back at your own psyche. Like even you saying, "Oh, look, you're just presenting two feelings," and the difficulty is almost in, you know, the like the dichotomy between the two, and then to make space for both, just be willing to hold both. already helped me not feel so tight by
Mm,
that juxtaposition.
mm,
And so then the invitation to even explore like what archetypes are here, or what is it that I'm believing behind sort of these
mm.
points of tension. It's such a gift, really. Yeah.
Okay, so what end of the spectrum do you feel called to start feeling?
Ooh. I think, tell me if this feels like I'm still on track, because what's here is that this whole sense of like we're not going to be okay,
Mm,
like this fear that in myself, and also I think I feel it collectively too, that in general it's like all of us are like just one step away from like, oh my, is it all going to fall apart around us? And just staying ahead of that. And then when we perceive that something is falling apart in somebody else's life, a worst nightmare, right? Losing your husband of 17 years, the father of your child, etc. Um, and so then I carry that personally in mostly thinking about my daughter and understanding trauma and understanding that sense of when something goes wrong, it feels like something's wrong with me.
mm,
I did something wrong.
yeah.
And it's also true that, yeah, this seems a little like on a different track, but there's a sense of like wanting to, and for me personally, wanting to acknowledge that, yes, to survive in the world, to have a modicum of safety, shelter, food, love, support, um, we do have needs. And so those needs being threatened, um, is a real experience, is something that is like there's a value in trying to secure your reality to the best of your ability to prevent, any sort of catastrophe or disaster or hunger or anything like this. So that it's like, it is true that we're vulnerable as a species on this planet. And this idea of, are we going to be okay? That for me feels a little more psychological.
Yeah. Well, there's no doubt that we're wired for survival, and that when that's threatened, and I'm going to use air quotes because I want you to question that.
Right. Exactly.
um,
Exactly. Yeah, when we talk about the human rights and the human experience and human archetype and spiritual archetype, and so I'll use my teacher Thomas's the trifecta that he brings in, which is being, belonging, becoming.
mm,
And so, like that base level of survival, I think, just with my simplistic interpretation of being, is really that, like that I have a right to be in the world. That there's opportunity, there's shelter, there's food, there's like my basic support. But then that second part of belonging is sort of, where do I fit in the human community? And am I acceptable or not? Or do I have peers? Do I feel like I belong to a collective? And that's interesting in terms of this idea. And this is, I think, where I'd like to explore, because there's something that's a little stuck here, that that I don't belong when something bad happens to me, like that I've done bad, that I am cursed, or like the Scarlet Letter, and these historical. archetypes in our collective that it seems really exaggerated. I obviously didn't do anything wrong. My husband passed away from cancer. Do I think that maybe he did something wrong?
Mm.
And certainly my daughter, and we feel each other, right? And so I can feel in her youthful process, this potential in her that maybe, I did something wrong, speaking in her voice that she did so. I don't know that that's true. Um, we've started seeing a psychologist, so I know that those answers can maybe come up. Yeah, so just speaking to it, I can see how the fear of not belonging is here, and that it's not necessarily true.
Mm.
That there may be also an opportunity to get a sense of belonging in appropriate places. That I
Mm.
can't expect everyone to meet me here, but like you will meet me here. Like
Always.
you can help me feel like I belong in this, to the club that gets to experience, you know, loss.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also there's, such an obvious, you said the word transition, but there's such a, like, yes, it makes sense that your sense of belonging has been rattled because you belonged in a partnership and you guys had a life around that. And now
Mhm.
that's changed.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so, it makes perfect sense that there's a sense of questioning old belongings, wanting new belongings, community, new connections, but being in that space of in between. And that's a creative space, right?
Yes. Yes, and it feels really good, and when you say that, and it feels like really true. And I just want to be accountable also to myself, because what's really still sitting in me that's not necessarily reflective of my opportunity is this. It's funny because, like, just bringing it up, like, I've been kind of sitting in it, like, the whole scarlet letter, the whole house, like, that there is a contagiousness to, like, bad luck.
Mm.
And I just wanna bring this up, right? Because this is really process work here. 'Cause, like, I can even feel it sort of as, like, in my like a little bit of, like, a in my lung, like almost like I've smoked or something, and, like, my lung feels like on the left side, because this is definitely historic. This is, like, not as much to do with the present moment experience. The present moment experience is revealing this, like, symptom in me and my psyche, um and it's interesting, right? Because there's like so much energy over my heart. So, what that means for me somatically and process work wise is like that there's a part of my heart shut down around this idea. Um, and it's like, if it's almost embarrassing to admit it, because it's like, it feels like like magical thinking is what we
Mm.
call it, right? When it's like it's a young belief, an idea that that can be true, that I could, not be liked or not be cared for because of a tragedy in my lineage.
Mm. Oh, that's interesting.
there's something else around like that like when people say, poor you, poor Jen.
Mm.
Disastrofizing, is that a word?
Catastrophizing
Thank
is.
you. Catastrophizing. Um, Waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's really, really deep. Sorry. I don't know if like we wanted to get into it's moving. It's moving out of my lung and up and out of my shoulder. Um, so because just to bring this into the work too, because this is like does this feels like I was able to just go right into like an archetype and an ancestral memory. Um, those things can really just we can just let them move, like I can feel it moving out of my left shoulder and out of my left arm and down and because I'm not there's nothing in my current wisdom state that's attached to that idea. I'm like experimenting a little bit on myself here, but like the idea is like, can I just let that go? Can I just almost release right here and now? And so I need a repair statement.
Mm.
So the repair statement, maybe you have something about that my belonging is not in question, because of my divinity. Um,
Yeah.
that belonging is up to me. That if I feel even in the face of that same language and that same behavior potentially out in the world, that even losing my body, even losing friends, doesn't touch my sense of belonging. Why? Because belonging is belonging innate? Is belonging spiritual? Help me out here.
Well, what's coming up for me is I'm here.
Oh,
Right? Like,
right.
but literally, like the
Mm,
fact that you are here
yeah, yeah.
is the foundation of your belonging. Right? Isn't it?
Right.
You know, we can get all up in our heads and our minds and analyze that to death, but when it
No, you want to feel it. Like, but the mind can help. Like, if the concept can drop in because it's true. Because the thing is, we believe lies unconsciously, right? We believe old stories that we're not acknowledging are there, and often we don't know why. We just these things come up, right? This existential fear that makes no real sense comes up.
Ah, yes. So what I just totally heard loud and clear is, and it brings it back around, is anytime you're denying any part of your experience, you're diminishing your sense of belonging to.
Oh, yeah. So we do it for ourselves. There is this element of meeting ourselves and like, but when you said I am here, Stephanie, what I felt was that you were here.
Yes. Well, and
Like
I am
what
here with
and
you.
and how that landed in me though is like take account, take inventory of
Mm,
who is here, where your belonging is, and nurture those spaces instead of it being some sort of belonging as a whole, like everybody accepting everything all the time. We all love each other no matter what. And it's like, wait, that's probably not going to be the case. Maybe from the inside out, maybe the more we do the work. But there are people in your life. And if there aren't, find them, cultivate them, and like work on the oh, okay, here I belong. Here I can show up with all my shit. And this person's got me. I'll never not feel like I belong. And cultivate that, right? Cultivate that because it's true. In my story, I have had a sense of not belonging my whole life. For my astrology friends, I have Chiron in the 11th house. Like, I don't know who my people are. So
Mm.
I get to work again, an opportunity to have the experience over and over again of not belonging that lives in my body. And then, we're bringing that here, which is kind of where I feel like we landed now. And you saying to me, I'm here. Um, I feel that reminder, like a reminder, that reminder, that's the repair. I do belong. I do belong. At least here I belong. With this person, I belong. Thank you for that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Uh, I am so like feeling the sense of what we pay, it's so fundamental. Like what we pay attention to is our experience, right?
Mhm,
So much of literally our awareness is um is just conditioned to be negatively biased, and that's our survival mechanism. And so it's okay that it's there, and also what else, right? That's what I'm feeling, that it's coming full circle. You're afraid of the unknown. What if we're not okay?
mhm,
And also the practice, right, is letting yourself acknowledge that fear and also expand the awareness to we're okay right now,
mhm, mhm, mhm,
and we've been okay 100% of the time that we've experienced life on earth so far. Right? Like that's a little dramatic, but I'm saying that in order to make the point. Both can be true,
mhm,
and and letting yourself, when you're narrowly focused on either side, like you said, good or bad,
mhm,
expanding
mhm,
to to allow both to be
mhm,
true at the same time is not only fully accepting yourself and your experience,
mhm,
right? But then expanding in general your awareness of, oh, there are places where I belong.
mhm,
Oh, there are areas in my life where I am becoming,
mhm, 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 mhm. That's right.
right?
Yep. Yep. And then that spaciousness too, available is the ability to look at that other thing, right? And to see, where might that be coming from and what belief might be underneath that.
Mm,
And can I let that go? Do I need that belief? So that spaciousness, just to include the multiple perspectives, like to step out, is in and of itself, as you say, expansive. And it's a necessary step to then look at and release. Because I do think that the byproduct of this is being less triggered, not always just knowing how to deal with your triggers, but that literally they are less and less because you're more and more aligned with the truth. And the truth is that we will be uncomfortable and we will have fear. But if I have said, okay, being uncomfortable is a part of my experience, and there's even something maybe interesting in it, then it's less and less of something that I need to manage.
mm,
And you said, our aware what we perceive is our experience. And so what we perceive is important to witness and look at
Right. All of it.
because it is our experience.
Right. All of it. So that we can then be intentional about where to cultivate energy, to
And the
cultivate.
answer, and the answer is in that excavation, right? The answer,
Right.
like the answer to the question is already there.
Yeah. Yeah. The obstacle is the way, right?
And it's challenging. That's the point. Is it does that you invited in that spaciousness, which enabled me to look right. So it's like, what are the obstacles, the way, but also I need shoes, I need an umbrella, I need a freaking friend, I need a map.
Right.
um, yeah,
You
yeah.
said something about being able to see the beliefs underneath and then letting go. Can I then let it go? And what came up so loudly in that moment, and then you used the word. What came up so loudly was the question: do you have to let it go, or do you ask, "Is that true?" And then you said the word truth.
Yeah, and I think that that's the point of like that letting go isn't just a thing. It's
Right.
there's a mechanism, and it can be unique. Like, is it true? Is a really like I think that's Brene Brown that uses that in her
Mm,
methodology. Like, it is very powerful
yeah.
because the word belief invites the question, is that true? Yet, as somatic practitioners, we have to acknowledge like that the nervous system registers truth and secrete registers perception as true. Like, we do that the nervous system is working on us,
Right.
telling us and communicating, and that's some of the old stuff and the ancestral stuff. It lives in that memory, which is why saying, is it true conceptually and bypassing doesn't necessarily give us the release physically that we
Mm,
need, so that
right.
again the nervous system is not registering threat. It's that power of the mind over the body. And yeah,
So
the
do you have oh, go ahead.
sorry, go ahead, what happened?
N- No, you didn't freeze for me. There may be a little bit of a lag, but the question I had coming up is, do you have a sense of any beliefs that are underneath the "are we going to be okay" thought? Mm.
I don't know. I think honestly, past life. I have a sense of that, being that I've done some past life regression, and I feel that I carry something that's not reflective of the way I was made to feel as a child necessarily. Um and there's a sense of I'm all by myself, which is not true. I mean, you're here. I have parental support on both sides of my family. I have friends. I have important, kind, and wonderful people in my life who love and support me. So I feel how I keep myself isolated, which is
Mm.
interesting. I think that it has to do with my emotional vulnerability, that I want to show up to the table with all of my gear ready to go. Like, I don't want to show up to the table and be like, I need a water bottle. I need extra pair of hiking boots. Like, is it okay if I go with you? Because I don't know the way. Yeah, I do that. And I don't need to do that. And I've been experiencing in my healing of not really feeling belonging both how good it feels to help others, and I'm still walking the edge of, like, letting it feel good to ask for help. It's
Mm,
there's something so protective in that for me that I have, like I feel like layers of muscle on my back, just sort
mm,
of like it feels like like self-punishment almost.
mm,
So anything else and that we're not going to be okay. So yeah, that like I have a barrier against asking for help, and there's so many beautiful people in my life who want to help me. So there's something very protected about that. And the other that I'm a mess, and don't make good decisions, and everything I've gotten has, been through luck.
mm,
What have I ever actually built? And like, do I even deserve support? What have I given or produced? Yeah, and as I say it more, it feels like it feels ridiculous to do that, to put that on myself. And yet, yeah, I hear that voice feels like an echo of needing to prove your value. Um, Maybe internalized as I don't have value, right? So instead of it being giving back and putting time and effort into something can give a person a sense of value.
mm,
And that's a another archetype in the human experience that's worth having, but
mm.
it's not your value, it is that you do exist.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hearing like, who does not have value?
Right, exactly, exactly,
Like, name
exactly.
one person on planet Earth.
Yes, and that's lands so deep in my belly,
Yeah,
because you know what? It's that what echoes in my brain is, who am I not valuing?
right. Which, you talked about sort of the collective turmoil we're in. So there's a lot of that happening around us. A
Yeah.
lot of
Yes.
division, a lot of othering,
Yeah.
a lot of this is not okay. We
Right.
are not okay. That is a collective mantra right now on both sides, and I'm doing air quotes again because I don't even believe in those sides, but I think everyone is feeling it. I
Yeah.
just finished watching a series, and one of the line I heard a line that I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's so good. To the monsters, we are the monsters."
Wow, it's so true. Oh, it's so true. It's such a advanced thing to say, right? Like if we could all just download our quantum reality and know it to be true in our hearts, like we would know that decharacterizing another person, regardless of what they've done, is the opposite of creating the solution that we want. But it's
So
so hard to believe that.
let's bring it back to your current present moment experience.
Mm-hmm.
I am afraid
Yep.
of the unknown. I believe I'm worried. Are we going to be okay?
Right.
And also, how exciting to have a little bit of an opportunity right now to create a life based on what my daughter and I need.
Mm.
Right? So think about those, and maybe, and let's actually just say that that other end of the spectrum, we're very clear on the are we going to be okay question.
Mhm.
So maybe this opposite question needs to be significantly larger, like what if everything is amazing? Okay, very general, but the reason that I want to really give voice to those two things is, to the monsters, we are the monsters. So how is within you the hope, the experience of freedom, the potential to create based on your deepest desires? How is that then raising the are we going to be okay?
Mm.
Right? And how is the are we going to be okay the monster to the hopefulness?
Mhm.
And isn't the work, as we've said already several times, is just to hold space for all of it?
Yeah. Mhm.
And since our nervous systems resonate with what's true, won't that reveal itself?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, well, what occurs to me with that last statement is that what does my nervous system feel like when it's resonating with what's true?
Mm,
And I have to say, like, I feel like, oh, what I'm used to is my nervous system on fire.
yeah.
And so if my nervous system will resonate with what's true, what does that feel like? That feels like peace and relaxation. I guess, like just off the top of my head, what does it feel like? It feels calm. Um,
Safe.
yeah. Yeah, like the presence is available when the nervous system is, I guess it's like almost a neutral,
Mm,
right? It's available versus like locked in or tensed up or high strung. Um, like a note can notice it whether I'm breathing or not. Like if it's like in a neutral state, it feels like the breath is just open. And then these other states, the breath is sort of like arrested or paused and has to become more conscious in order to regulate. And that sense of being able to access the hopefulness. Um, Yeah, it's like I feels like the nervous system needs to be in that neutral or in that regulated to be able to access the hopefulness.
yeah. So you have the memorial coming up.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's there for you to serve that practice, that understanding, that being in that centered place, having that sense of equanimity or homeostasis
Mhm.
is what makes available both ends
Mhm.
so that you can go through that experience holding space for both.
Yeah. Let's just make that the prayer
Yeah.
for Saturday.
Okay. I like that. May I hold space for all of my experience.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and I get a sense of like resolve and that that I am the space that's holding because it's gonna be all there's gonna be so many things that pass through. And if I can sit back in space, then it's so easier to just recognize like, okay, it's going to be choppy waters and there's gonna be a lot of movement and there's gonna be a lot of energy. And us water people, we know like you're supposed to just surrender and get soft and just ride and
I'm glad you
yeah.
brought in the water analogy because when you said sit back, I'm immediately like, okay, but how do you do that and still have like feel your experience, right? Because you can sit back and like the throne of escapism, the detachment,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, no, but
Just,
not that.
yeah. So the water metaphor is really good in that it's you're in it, you're
Mhm.
flowing, and you have to be in it to flow.
Well, yeah, I mean, the space is what holds everything. I mean that, in context with presence, not with disillusion or disassociation.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually hard to maintain. People think like with disassociation and escapism, you sort of have to switch that where you are then holding off flow.
Mm,
And that takes work. That's why people will fall asleep for long, 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 long periods of time.
right.
Um, it takes work to, because the flow is there. And like I guess if you were in the water and you were floating and not resisting and you just wanted to sink to the bottom, you would have to hold your breath.
Right.
So you would have to cut something off to
Right.
really.
Right. Or like trying to grasp onto something to not flow requires muscular energy. But,
Mhm.
turning and swimming upstream is
Yeah.
like a lot of exertion, right? That it is actually easier. But you have said this before, and I think it's really key is that, like, what you said about your nervous system just being very used to the fear, the sense of fear, and being in any level of that, more so
Mhm.
than knowing what it feels like to flow, right? So we
To be
get very,
calm.
yeah, we get very used to. So even
Well,
though technically it's easier, it might feel unfamiliar.
Well, this is, becomes a whole mystical discussion around identity because those states then inform a lot of what we do, and then we don't want to release because then who are we and etc. But let's go there another time. I want to acknowledge that I feel fully regulated and calm and seen, held, and nurtured. I feel totally different. And I know that I was in that dysregulated and I needed to come in and like present some of that with you. And you really helped me. Is there anything today? Because we'll just do time. Who cares? I mean, we have time together. Let's just stay live if you want to.
Yeah.
Um, is there anything you want to talk about?
Perhaps, but before we jump, I feel like there's one other thing that's coming up for me
Yeah.
around what you've been processing about just having the
Tell
like
me.
a lot of opposing feelings and recognizing that your opportunity here is to just learn or practice holding space for all of it and letting it all be true, and maybe even not needing to figure it out, like, right, not letting just letting it all be there right now, and especially through this weekend, I think there might be just a real opportunity for your expansion, your ability to, because lots of people are going to express themselves to you, right? There's going to be a lot. So, what the last thing that I'm feeling around that whole conversation is, what do you need to take that acknowledgement from our conversation and embody it over this next week?
I mean, I think I got what I needed just to kind of, you know, hold space for it. I mean, I feel a lot less anxiety about the memorial. My anxiety is a little was a little more around, my daughter, and this is not easy for her, obviously. It's kind
Yeah.
of, needless to say. And she's 14, she's going to be 15. She is stunningly gorgeous and
Yes, she
super
is.
duper self-conscious. And we can get back into general genetic ancestral lineage and breaking chains. And when I was 15 is when our parents divorced, and I was going through a major identity crisis, and we left New Jersey and went to Georgia my sophomore year in high school. You went to college, and I was home alone in Georgia after knowing New Jersey for 9 years, which is a totally different vibe. But I was also avoiding some stuff that was coming up for me socially, and not grieving the fact that I went from having family that, you love to hate your family, but you love to be together, and you love to, like, we
Well,
had dinners every night. We had,
speaking a sense of belonging,
oh, there you go.
right?
We had traditions. They were our little silly traditions, but we had them,
Yeah.
and those stopped, which I was like, great. I don't have to confront what's going on inside of me internally, and I can flip a coin and kind of go into my new life and
Mm.
not,
Ah,
acknowledge. So, and my daughter, she, her story is different in that she's trying to find a place amongst her peers living in a foreign country, not looking like everybody else, not really having a dominance on the language. She's great, speaks great. But you know how kids are, man, and it's like you gotta be cool. You gotta be quick or sharp and funny. And I think that she's good at making fun of herself and being silly, but she's got her moon in the first house. She's very self-conscious, and really wants her inner world to match her outer world. And now she has another scarlet letter, which is she's the kid whose dad died. And so I'm like, my anxiety is so much more around, is she going to be okay? Her mental health. And yeah, am I going to be able to pull it off? You asked me about my belief, which was that I don't, do I have the capacity to pull things off? And I've pulled off a lot of things, but I've also been a disaster and an addict. And so, it's a self-worth, it's a self-belief thing. And then when you add on the experience of the perception of not belonging, It's like I can get pinged very quickly. That belief can get pinged very quickly and confirmed. And then I can stay in that cycle and in that story. And you're right, like part of me is more comfortable there. But that's the why. When there is capacity and time and willingness and compassion to investigate, you know, with that spaciousness, because we do have to repair these broken beliefs that we carry from our childhood and from our past lives. These are the archetypes that are working in us, and we do, all of us choose mostly to live in those archetypes and from those archetypes, and not all of us are being served by our archetypes. And these are the three cards I pulled this morning. Victim, I
Oof.
can't do it. I can't do it. I need somebody to take care of me. Savior complex. I have Neptune on the descendant. Bully,
Oof.
which is your tendency to intimidate others. So this is, for me, this is the not asking piece, the not being vulnerable. I don't need your help. I got this. I've always done it my whole life. You left me when I was 15. What are you going to do for me? I'm the only one who's got me. And by the way, you can't have me. I'm not available for you to love on, even though I need you so much to love on me. And then warrior is the third, my third.
Mm.
And this is the one I want to call in. This is, we're heading into a very Aries time of year. And I think I said something in our last video about like the time of the spiritual warrior. To me, this is the fighting for what you said, which is we all belong. Who does not belong? And that's also what I was taking home from the monster, to the monster, we are the monster. Because if somebody is, if yeah, it's such a good, I don't even want to say anymore. Just leave it as that.
Well, so speaking of like holding space for all of it, I think it's important to say, like, we have to do our own inner work, but we don't necessarily need to feed the monster, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like, so the othering that we do
To
and feels
ourselves.
is what we're doing to ourselves. And so that's where it starts. And
So we
while we're
should. So instead of saying we have to do the inner work, can we say we should, because that's how we get free and that's how we change the world. And there is no other formula of that, like 2 + 2 = 4. It doesn't work from the outside in,
right,
essentially.
right. That's why I feel comfortable saying we have to. That's what we
Yeah.
have to
I
do.
think people hear that and it's just like another
Yeah.
thing to do versus like, wait a minute, no, it's the key to the
It's
kingdom.
the only thing to do.
Exactly.
It's the
Exactly.
only thing to do.
And why? Because everything we want in the world works that way, not because we're bad or we're sinners or we need to be punished or, there's something wrong with us. No, there's nothing wrong with you, but your map, and your psychological relevance, like, and because it's on the flip side is the power, right? Like it's like, oh, because then there's more room for the hopefulness, then there's room to create from that point. and
Right.
and to be fair, some people are there or were born there, like it's not, we all know, I know by looking at my nervous system, like, am I in that full creation, that full making love with life in the universe? Or is there a lot of tension, anxiety, uncertainty, unfamiliarity, and ways that I'm trying to manage a unstabilized nervous system? There's no, no, no. It's to go in and to release, to open, to bring that love and kindness, not othering ourselves, to tend to our our stress, as you put it in your work, make
Yeah.
peace with stress.
Yeah. 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 Well, it's just about acknowledging the resistance and being intentional about how to um what to do about it. What to do about that resistance. And also, let's just really, emphasize that it's all energy and it's very dynamic. In other words, like, yeah, we do our inner work, and also we have to acknowledge that there's a collective experience that is having an effect on us. And so
Yeah,
holding space for both of those things is like
that's right.
the most potent thing we can do is the inner work, because as you said correctly, everything emanates out from that. And also we live in within this larger context where there's a lot of forces outside of us influencing us, and that's okay, that's what's necessary.
And in my experience of that is the capacity to be with that is it comes from a different place when your inside is tended to,
Yeah.
right? So the capacity, it's that you're less triggered, you're less, there's less symptomology with the world at large
Yeah.
touching you. And it's not a disengagement either. It's a capacity to engage
Yeah.
from that regulated place that has a lot more hopefulness and creativity
Yeah.
available.
Yeah, we tend to call it resilience, right? But what it really
Yeah.
is the nervous system's capacity to have greater and greater experiences. Let's go this way. So it's
Yes.
right. Broader and broader,
Yeah.
more expansive experiences, and come back. Come back to
Yes.
center.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. And we gotta, do it. We gotta put ourselves in the situations and give ourselves those things, really give. I'm coming out of this space feeling a lot different than when I came in. That's doing the work. It's like, okay, now I can meet my next call, my next meeting, and I'm not pushing aside what I was carrying to be available.
Mm,
I say, no, I'm carrying something. I need this, and then I'll move on to the next thing.
yeah, yeah. Mm. Yeah, that's valuable. I'm glad we make time for this.
Yes, it is on the calendar now every week, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So should we wrap this up and with the intention of giving you space next week, or do you want to take some space now?
Yeah. No, I feel like we've done some really good work, and it's been valuable to me for sure, because everything we experience is universal in some level.
Absolutely.
Um
My pain is your pain.
yeah, my love is your love.
Hmm. Yeah. My vulnerability is your vulnerability.
My peace is your peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always love it's such a simple metaphor, but it's so great. Like just so spot on. You can't scrap it. Just this like the drop of water and how the circles just keep going, right? That
Hmm.
concentric expansion.
Yeah.
And it will dissipate until the next drop. So, time for this is about steady drops.
I like that image a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, on the larger perspective or on the whole like the whole idea around this is the levels of application because yeah, we just had it right now in our conversation that time taking time for this, putting that drop in, right, sets things in motion and we do this for ourselves as individuals,
Mhm.
right? And how then the level of our putting drops out into the world shifts. That our drop into the world is something that will create positive waves. Let's just call it simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, what we want to see, as Gandhi would say, right? What we
Yeah.
put in, the drop that we put in from ourselves is the drop
Mhm.
that gets sent out. So, good
And
work.
every drop is essential.
Yes.
Every single drop. Beautiful.
And is it Rumi that says true liberation is when you find out you're not the drop, you are the whole ocean or
Yeah.
something to that effect. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go look that up and post it.
Cool.
I
Awesome.
love
Thank you
you.
so much. I love you too.
Yeah, yeah.
Till next time.
Yes.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.